And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power Man podcast. This is a new special thing that we're doing now called our daily steel core moments. These are going to be a way to kind of start every one of your days by getting your mind right, by reminding you of something that's important, by getting you thinking the correct way, and just sort of putting ourselves on the right path as we get rolling. So, these are short episodes. In addition to these, we're still going to have our interviews being published, and I think you guys are going to love the additional content. So, would love to hear your comments. Please let me know what you think as you guys get going. Today's Steel Core moment, gentlemen, is a reminder of something that we've talked about before, but something that I see getting lost all the time, and that is how we deal the first 48. Right? The first 48. Now, what does that mean? For those of you who didn't catch this episode before or haven't heard this, this premise, gentlemen, unfortunately, we all keep score in our relationships with our spouses, with our children, with our coworkers, so on and so forth, with our friends, our peers. We're always keeping score, and this guy's doing better than I am, or I'm doing better than that guy. I did, this when I came home, and I work all day, and my wife, she does this, and then she wants me to chip in, and the kids, boy, they have no appreciation for, man, I'm spending $100 a week on protein powder. I'm working extra shifts just so I can go, afford to buy the extra 5 pounds of chicken that these guys need, and meanwhile they're telling you, yeah, Dad, you suck, right? So, gentlemen, the problem is that when we do keep score, okay, I always tell everybody not to, but when we do keep score, the problem we run into is that we're not keeping the same score that the rest of the world is. Okay, and the way this shows up most often is when it comes to your spouse. And so, you'll come home from work, you'll be working an 8, 10, 12-hour day, sometimes longer. I know a lot of you guys really kill it out there with 16 and 18-hour days. I've been there too. But you come home, you start work at like 2, 3 in the morning, you get home, you're dead, man. I mean, you've been out digging a hole or, unloading a truck or, I mean, whatever it is you need to be doing, pouring concrete, right? You're out there doing everything you got to do to bring home the bacon, make sure that the family's taken care of. And when you get home, man, the last thing in the world you want to do is worry about the laundry or worry about the dishes, right? Or worry about, vacuuming or, making lunches or any other thing like that. You know what I'm saying? You're just worried about surviving. You just want to get the boots off and you want to get your butt on the couch and you want to get all the feet, the weight off of your aching knees and your ankles and your limbs. And I mean, my gosh, man, sometimes you just want to get your favorite beverage, sit down for a minute and have 5 minutes apiece. I get it. You walk in the door and your wife's been there with the kids, or she's worked also, whatever it might be. And it's how come you're not pulling your own weight around here? Now, guys, a lot of us go into this conversation and we say, hey, I work 12 hours a day. So you feel like you're 12 hours ahead in this competition. Okay. Gentlemen, we do not get credit for the first 48. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. Okay, and the reason I say the first 48 is because that's a pretty good indication of, you work 8 hours a day, put in a half an hour to an hour of, helping out at night with whatever it is you do. That's expected. That's part of the job, man. You don't get credit for the first 48 because that is what you're supposed to do. Okay. I kind of look at it like, we just got done, with watching the NFL, right? And a bunch of you guys watched football this year. I used to talk to my boys and stuff when we would watch the games together. And I would say, guys, one of the things that annoyed me the most was watching a wide receiver who was getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars. And he would catch a 4 yard pass that happened to be for a first down. And he would stand up and point and he would, celebrate and shimmy and shake and do a dance. And it was like, you made a 4 yard catch. Yeah, you got a first down, but that's your job. Now you get a touchdown. You want to celebrate it? Great. But in between the goalposts, brother, I mean, that's your job. Catch the ball, secure yardage, right? Advance the cause. You don't celebrate every single time you make a catch. Do you see linemen celebrating every single time they make a block? It's your job, right? Guys, we have to take on that same mentality. We can't be prima donna wide receivers in our lives. We can't think, hey, I made a 4 yard catch. I should have a party. I should have a trophy made for me, right? And a plaque on the wall. We have to understand that when it comes to our families and when it comes to the first 48, brothers, we're the linemen, all right? In this analogy, we are the big uglies down in the trenches, and it is literally our job to go out there and carry our weight and do what we do, and we don't get credit for it. It's expected. It's why you get the paycheck. I want to remind you guys of this because, as I've worked with men in various groups, and now that we're, changing our groups and we're coaching men to become leaders of men, that is so very important that you not only learn that in your own life, but that you pass that on to the men that you're coaching, to the men that you're mentoring in your teaching. And I think it's a big thing for us to pass on to our sons. I think it's huge. You got to let your sons know, look, when you go to work and that's all great, and you bust it, you still need to come home and pull your own weight. You can't come home and go, well, my wife didn't do 16 hours of work. Why is she getting on me? Guys, it's just not the way it works. Now, a lot of you will hear that and you'll be like, well, Rory, that's just ridiculous. I don't get any credit for the work that I do. Look, no one's saying you don't get credit for it. Like, hey, you should still be appreciated. But if they didn't appreciate you, and in many, many cases, we don't get any appreciation for this, guys. I know. I mean, I've lived that life for decades. It doesn't matter how many hours you put in. There's going to be a moment where you're just simply not appreciated for what you're doing. But does that mean that you don't do the work tomorrow? Does that mean that you say, well, then I'm not going to go do the work. I'm not going to go put in the 16-hour day because no one appreciates it. Nah, man. Brother, you're still going to work the next day. You're still punching that clock. You're still putting those boots on at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whenever it is you got to go, and you're heading out that door. And it doesn't matter what the weather is, and it doesn't matter, what the car's running like, and it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter how your knees feel and your ankles feel. It doesn't matter if, your head hurts so bad that you feel like you have to carry it with two hands. Listen, it doesn't matter if, your lunch that day is two pieces of bread with nothing in it and you have a air sandwich. Believe me, guys. None of that matters. You're still going out that door and you're doing what you got to do tomorrow, appreciation or not. Because we all know that our job is to protect, to provide, and to lead. Now, look, it's also our job to love, and it's our job to support. And if we don't get the love and we don't get the support, you know what? You're still going to work the next day. You're still heading out that door. This is not intended to be negative. This is intended to be empowering. Because, gentlemen, when you get past the need for the pat on the back, when you give yourself that pat on the back, and when you can say, hey, I don't need my family to be, on their knees thanking me for every little thing I do. And you just realize it's the thing to do. And you realize that it's just what you do to keep everything rolling. There's a quiet peace inside of you that says, even though no one else recognizes this, I know. I know I got that first 48 in the bag. And I know I did that. But you know what? I don't get credit for that at home. I don't get credit for that on a scoreboard. So when I get home, before I leave in the morning, when I get home at night, before I go to sleep, I'm going to do some dishes, right? I'm going to cook some meals. I'm going to put some kids to bed, right? I'm going to read bedtime stories. I'm going to help with math homework. I'm going to do the things that I need to do with my wife, with my kids. I'm going to hold up my end of the bargain at home as well. Gentlemen, there's nothing on this planet that's more rewarding. And when you can do that, when you can let go of that need for appreciation, and you can accept that the first 48 is simply the job, then bro, you're as close as you're ever going to get to being free. That's real freedom because you get to give and you don't need in return. Is it great to have it in return? Does it feel good in return? Sure, sure it does. You go spend a bunch of money on a therapist and, tell them, oh, hey, poor me, my parents did this and my grandparents did that and the world does this. Sure, you can do that. Or you can buck up. Okay, you can go out there and realize that this is my job. This is what I signed up for. One of our core tenets here, guys, is the people who depend on you have to be more important to you than you are to you. That's a fact. And it's non-negotiable. All right, now we're going to talk a lot in these Steel Core minutes, these Steel Core moments about non-negotiables. And gentlemen, this is one of them. You do not get credit for the first 48. Accept that. Embrace it. Bring it in. Bring it on. Now, as we move forward, I'm going to come back to this a couple of times. We're going to talk about this again. It's really important that you embrace it, that you mean it when you say it. And the last thing that I'll say about this is you can't treat the first 48 like it's your ticket to martyrdom. Okay? This is not your excuse to mope or to pout, right? To hang your head and be like, oh, nobody loves me. Nobody cares what I do. I'm not saying we haven't all felt that way at some point, but that doesn't help anybody. Your wife feels that. Your kids feel that. And gentlemen, that's just embarrassing. I mean, if that's really the pit that you've fallen into, I suggest you reach up, ask for a rope, ask for a hand. You get some help and you get out of that. Most of us can get out of that by making the decision that it's not okay. This is a decision, guys. A decision to own it. A decision to say the first 48 is on me. And I know that already going in. So I'm going to go and I'm going to knock that out. I'm going to kill that, right? I'm going to wipe that out. I'm going to knock out that first 48 feeling good because it's my job. And when I'm done, then I'm going to start racking some points. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start, adding to the scoreboard. Gentlemen, you will find yourself in a position of strength, of power that you've never known. We can't sit there and need the head nod. We can't need the appreciation that isn't coming. You can do it. Mull this over a little bit. Okay, whatever you're feeling right now, swallow it, relax, take a deep breath, and then look at it again. At first glance, it's, well, that's not fair. Who got's fair, man? Fair is an F word that we don't talk about here. I don't care if it's fair. I care that it's real. And it is. And if you really think about it, I think you'll find that it is in your life too. You don't get credit for the first 48. So stop worrying about it. Check the box and move on. You guys are all stronger than you think. Let's start today with that kind of strength. Let's start the day where I don't need that. I'm going to start today going, I've got everything I need. I'm in control of my own life, and I'm going to go kill this day. Let's slay it. The reason I want that for you is because you matter, because you have value, because you're worth it. And at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.